soulmates, welcome to the making of this beautiful blouse or top you saw on the thumbnail. So, my name is Justice, and you're welcome to the Honest Fashion Academy. Here I have my basic bodice for the front. This is the full scale basic bodice on a smaller miniature. Okay, but I'm going to be cutting it from the waistline so that we can work on the upper parts and then attach the skirt parts if we're going to be making it into a gown. So here I'm going to keep this one aside, and this is what we're going to be working with. Now for this blouse, we're not going to use the neckline the way it is. We want to lower it a bit and then um, lower the armhole too, because it has um, freeness, or it has space. So at this part, I'm going to just determine how much I want to lower the neckline or widen the neckline. And from my widening, I'm going to connect to the armhole. It's more of an off shoulder. So this is what I have just to finish up the neckline. And I'm going to be trimming it out. If this video makes sense to you, please kindly watch it to the end if it is what you want to do, so that you get the best part of it. So here I've cut this place out, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is to tighten, to transfer the dart, and of course I'm going to be tightening the armhole. So I'll get my ruler and connect to the armhole. This is because we have widened the armhole. If you don't tighten it or create a dart there, it's going to kind of gape, right? So we're going to be tightening it a little. You can do half inch, you can do 0.25 depending on what you want. So I'm going to be transferring all of these darts, and of course I'll be transferring it to the neckline. So I'm going to connect to where I want it to be transferred to exactly. So I'm transferring it to the midpoint of the neckline, and I'm going to be closing all these other parts that I just marked. So I'll get my tape, I'll close this part up. You can see that once you close here, they are no longer matching up. So once you close it, you're going to blend it or through it so that it matches up. You add paper to it and blend it very well. So I'll cut this place open so that I can transfer the other side. So I'll close this like this. And I'll close this other part. Now this is what we have. Now once I have this, I'm going to be placing it on a new paper to draft or trace out a second pattern for it. So I'm going to be stepping it down so that it can stay in place. So once I have this, I'm going to flip it over. You're going to arrange it very well so that it lays flat this way. And then this part here, we don't need it. We just want the armhole to be straight and smooth. So I'm going to be trimming this out, connecting it to the armhole on a straight line, like so. So I'll be trimming that part off this way. Okay, so this is what I will use to transfer on my fabric, right? Then at this point, we're going to hold it together to put a rope around the neckline. So I'll be transferring to my fabric right now, and this is the fabric I'm going to be using. Okay, this is the way it's going to be because the two fronts are just on the same page. So once we have something like this, we are good to go. We are going to be cutting. The fabric should not be unfold. It's going to be like this because this is the full front. All right, so I'm going to be placing it this way and cut. Now at this CF side, you have to add sewing allowance because you're going to be stitching the center front. We're going to be stitching it, so you have to add your seam allowance, and then by the side you're going to be adding your seam allowance too. So I'll be cutting it the way it is. What happens here, you also replicate it on a bigger bodice and it will be very okay. So I'm adding 0.5 inch allowance. Okay, this is our armhole, our side. This is our armhole. This is the center front. So I'll be removing this, and of course we are going to cut the back side too. This is the back, and the back is a low back, so we're going to be trimming it from the armhole area. You have to determine how you want to trim this part. I want to make it something like a low back. So I'll be cutting on this part. This is what we need. You can decide to close the back dart, overlap it this way. And then once you overlap, you're going to smoothen it out. So this is the back side. It's a very low back, and I'm going to be cutting it on the fabric. Okay, so now once we are done cutting this part, we're going to identify the neck point. That is the midpoint. I can just give it a small notch just to identify the neck point. So I'm going to be removing the pins, and we'll have something of this nature. This is the center front. We are going to be stitching it down. Just trying to make sure they are of the same length. If you notice they are not, you have to trim it so that everything aligns together. So we're going to be sewing this way on the center front using our sewing allowance. So while closing this center front, I used pin. You're not going to sew everything to the end. You're going to keep as like 1 inch opening so that your strap can pass through it and extend to the back. You can see where my hand is coming out from. That is where the opening is going to be. So you get a long strap, something that can pass to the back neck as long as you want it, and then insert it into this opening. And this is how it's going to be. You need to finish it up properly. This is just for tutorial sake, and this is extending to the back. Now this is the back side, and we're going to be joining it side by side. The back is an open back, and this is what we have, right? So I'll be joining the sides together, right side to right side. I'll join together, right side to right side. I'll join together. So once this is done, I want to assume that you're sewing it. We're going to be placing it on our miniature so that you see how it is. I'll also sew this side, right side to right side. Does this video make sense to you? Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be good to go. So this is what we have. And of course, you need to finish this out very well. You need to like finish it properly. So we're going to be placing this on the miniature and you'll see how it looks.